Hello there, welcome to a new game, a new challenge. We're going to be playing as Tunis for the Sons of Carthage achievement. Last time, or the last achievement I did was playing as the Baleares, doing the Shah. I'll be dropping a link to that. But anyways, the Sons of Carthage is basically kind of an interesting one because the goal here is for you to take Sicily. You have to take Sardinia, the Balearic Islands, the southern coast of Spain, the coast of Algiers, and basically it's going to be quite a big area, and we're going to end up in a lot of problems, especially with people around us, which is of course going to be an issue. But what we are going to do, I think, is first and foremost try and vassalize Tlemcen in more or less the first war. In order to do this, we're going to ally ourselves with Morocco, who do not feel like rivaling us, which is of course pretty damn good. For the mission we're going to go with improve our prestige, form alliance could be good, protect our brethren could be good, but we'll take that as the point of stability instead. We'll also send a spy to fabricate a claim, so we actually do have something going here, and we'll fabricate on Dara because it's in theory it should be cheaper, so we'll just do that. Now for rivals, we do have of course Tlemcen itself. We are going to be fighting Aragon, so we might as well take that. Portugal, might need a province, so we might as well just pick them. We're not going to get an alliance or any good deals with them, which is too different. We also have some decisions that we can do. These are basically the general Muslim decisions, the Khalifa, some prestige, and of course the announcement of sect practices, which gives a little bit -1 to national unrest, which is of course really useful. And as you can see, by doing these, I actually got myself enough now piety to start converting the provinces. We'll not be doing that. It'll simply be too much of a gamble, too much of a potential issue by doing that. So no, we are going to be very, very careful in what we do here. But I think the way that we're going to be doing these things is actually fairly simple. We're going to be doing a lot here by basically peacefully vassalizing our neighbours more or less. So we're going to ally Fezzan here for basically, well, right off the get-go, because it will allow us to potentially protect them against the Mamluks. Now, let's see, a Fezzan alliance, we'll accept that one. I need to have one of these open, so I think, well, Granada could be useful, especially if I can actually vassalize them. I can't right now, but I probably will be able to later. And also it could be a really good way of getting myself into the southern coast of Spain, so that's good. But I've used up my diplomatic relations right now, so we're not going to be taking anything else there. Getting myself a royal marriage with both Granada and just Granada. Morocco is someone I will most likely end up fighting later on, so I don't really want to do anything there. If we check region-wise, we're going to need, as you can see here, North Africa, Maghreb. Well, it's just called North Africa. You don't actually know what the coast of Algiers is here, so I'll have to check it out. But it might be that I actually need, well, the region of North Africa or Maghreb Al-Absat, I would presume then is actually what I need. The achievement was a lot harder before, because basically, I think it's Andalusia here for southern parts of Spain. But anyways, what I was going to say here is the achievement was a lot harder before, because it's actually started as a much smaller nation. Now Tunis is actually pretty damn big and thus rather scary. But that's not really too important. We'll leave things as they are. We'll royal marriage with Fezzan, and we'll probably also, as I said here, royal marriage Granada to potentially get some extra here. And what happened now here? Crisis of the Maghreb. Last century been harsh and unforgiving one for countries of the Maghreb. Well, we get 5 years of plus 10 to stability and -5 to global trade power. Not something totally horrible per se, but it's not good either. Now, Morocco is someone I will probably not have to fight. I'm a little bit unsure. I'll have to do some checking out later. But we are going to accept that marriage. But as I said, for the time being, we're going to build our armies up to force limit, which is 13. We currently have a 7-2 army. I'm probably going to turn this into a 8-4 potentially. 9-4, 10-4, something like that before we start a war. So I think we're just going to do this first. We're just going to make it a 12,000 man army, and then we're going to move from there. But as said, I'll be fabricating a claim. and once that claim is done, I'll get back to you. There we go, the claim is done, which is good, which means that we can now declare war. And as you can see here, my allies will join Jared, and Togut will unfortunately join on the side of the enemy, which is of course bad. But we will most likely have to go for vassalization here because of the increased quarrying costs. We don't really want to use our sparse admin power to, well, forcibly take these guys out. Now, I didn't actually mention, but we do have a pretty crappy sultan here, a 133. Not good at all. He's pretty horrible, to be perfectly honest. Other than that, we look fairly good. We are a pretty big player in the area. The Berber ideas though are a little bit interesting because they give -10 to ship cost, and of course the hostile core creation cost is really annoying. We get naval force limits modifier plus 25%, attrition for enemies plus 1, national trade income modifier plus 10%, yearly naval tradition plus 1, privateer efficiency by 10%, 10% combat cavalry ability, and diplomatic relation plus 1, galley combat ability plus 20%. So a lot of our ideas are actually focused on the sea, which is of course well, historically correct. But again, here the goal for this war will be very, very simple. I'll not be aiming at taking these three here. If I can vassalize Fezzan and Tlemcen, these could eat each other up for all I care, so I could save a relation point. But the goal here will be for me to vassalize Tlemcen and thus secure myself a pretty good position. And then we might actually consider fabricating claims on Aragon and attacking them, provided of course that alliances break or they end up in a weak moment, because right now attacking them would be a little bit awkward. So both of our enemies joined in, so to speak. Of course these guys get a fairly decent general, better than mine, but we should be able to, especially with Morocco's help, be able to destroy their army, even though they do get a pretty solid defensive modifier there. So let's see here if I can actually hunt down the enemy armies. Luckily enough, Fezzan will be sieging from the west. If I can, I'll probably hand a province or two over to Fezzan, because it would just be simpler, if you will. So I'll try and destroy the army here, the united army, if you will. And if I do that, I'll split up a sieging squad more or less. But this is basically probably one of the best opening moves. And also, of course, I could just leave the sieging to Morocco here in its entirety and just try and focus on doing just that. So we'll go ahead here and we'll help with the sieges, if you will, and hopefully I won't get into trouble by doing so. But we'll see. If these guys create troops, they could definitely become a issue that needs to be taken care of. But right now it doesn't seem to be a problem. Of course, we get a very bad event here, but we don't really have. We have two provinces that will be a problem here: Jerba and Severha, because they aren't well, my religion, if you will. Occupied by Granada, actually, that's an interesting one. Might be that someone else actually snatches a province or two here. But here you see one of the problems with the current setup here. They can create and build armies, which is of course not the best thing to have happen, which means that we will have to split our army to protect ourselves from, well, these guys coming to knock on my door, if you will. But we'll just allow the war to go its course. It should be a very simple victory, as you can see. I'll not be hiring any advisors just yet. We'll be focusing on sieges alone. So far things are going well here. As you can see, the siege of Oran was just completed, and everyone else has actually been pieced out of this war. I basically just forced them to give me war reparations, which means I get 10% of their income. Granted, these two are really small, that won't actually matter for much, but at least I pieced them out of their own for very cheap. And as you can see here, these guys actually accept now becoming my vassal. Unfortunately, of course, the people around won't really like that, but Morocco and Granada, the two, well, important players in this scenario, will not care. These three, I couldn't really care too much about. I can just force vassalize one even if he conquers everything, so it's not actually a big issue. We're just going to go straight out and vassalize Tlemcen here, and with that we have improved our prestige and we get a free point of stability. With that we can also go straight for incorporating, but I think rather than that we're going to yeah, I think it's actually easier to just go straight out and incorporate. So we're going to get relations up and running here, and hopefully we'll be able to annex them in the next 10 years or so. Now Granada here actually wants my provinces, as you can see. The same will probably go for Morocco, wants my provinces. So it's not the best, but of course it is what it is. And I will also of course now see if I can get good old Fezzan here in a position where I can actually just peacefully vassalize them. Thus I can annex both of the target nations at once, and that is of course a really important thing to do, so to speak. That will really be helpful, especially if you consider the fact that when you annex a vassal, and at the current system you lose 3 diplomatic reputation for a while, and of course thus it's kind of important to keep things under lock and key, if you will. But we do at least now have secured borders with the vassalization of Fezzan. We have these 3 more or less wrapped up. The only thing that's really going to be interesting now is if I will be getting that potential or opening, if you will, to attack. Well, we might actually go for attacking Castile even, to just ally with Portugal. So if I'm really lucky, I might be able to integrate Tlemcen, vassalize Granada, and then go after Castile. That would really be it would be an interesting way to do things. So for now, we'll just sit by peacefully and see if we can get a good opportunity here. Well, I see that I already gotten that one, so we'll accept that. And with this, as you can see here, the power, or yeah, the power is actually pretty damn even. But we have one really big question, a big problem here, if you will. It will be really hard to get into Castile, of course. I can't get military access to Aragon. France, nope. So I need to actually have my fleet in either Gulf of Valencia or the Gulf of Almeria here to get my troops into their land. But of course, with the Castilian navy here being more or less superior, it's going to be really difficult, and thus I will not be taking any chances if I can. Well, if I can help it. There's no reason for me to do anything unnecessary, if you will. So for the time being, we'll just sit by peacefully and see what happens. Well, this could be an interesting one here. As you can see, Morocco has gotten himself into a secondary war here against well, Portugal in the Portuguese conquest of Tangiers. And the funny thing here is, if you saw what I saw, the war here is actually different from the others, but I'm kind of surprised at the amount of force that Castile is able to put out here. We were even at the start. Now Castile has suddenly made 40,000 troops. So that is going to be really harsh to compete with later on. So I think we need just to consolidate this area for the time being, see if Naples or Aragon or something ends up in a position where I can actually attack them. And I think we're actually going to accept, but we're going to try and stay, or do our best to stay out of the war. I need Morocco as an ally, just for, well, I don't need them per se as an ally, but they're good to have around because that means that my western front is secured. They won't suddenly come and take me out, if you will, and that is basically the only reason why you've seen them as a, well, reasonably good ally. For the time being, however, we'll wait for, again, the annexation, which is well, going to be about 10 years from now. Then we can start. And of course we're going to be fighting, hopefully, just a smaller armies here now. Landing a 3,000 man Neapolitan army shouldn't be too much of an issue. And potentially we might just get a little bit of extra, well, war experience from this, so to speak. Or tradition, if you will. Tiny bit. They got a lot more though. So again, for the time being, we'll just sit back. We will not be trying to land in troops in Castile. Too many Spaniards. So for the time being, again, we'll wait and take the opportunities as to come. Now this right here is something I really did not account for. There is actually a Aragonese and or Aragon and Portuguese army insert. It doesn't make sense. This is basically the furthest away from the war zone it could have dropped them. It could have dropped them in, of course, Morocco itself, but apparently didn't want to do that. Instead it dropped them in my vassals' territory, which is, to be perfectly honest, it doesn't make too much sense to me. So what we're going to do is actually retreat into Moroccan territory in the hopes of these guys, well, either boating away, so to speak, or doing something else. But I'm a little bit unsure how this war will actually develop. So we're going to end it here, and we're going to continue next time. This could go either way, really, but if I can just, again, keep Morocco as an ally until Tlemcen and Fezzan has been annexed, and then I can start working on these three, then I'm pretty sure we will be able to, as I said, pull this off. We'll just have to see how it pans out. So feel free to comment any tips, advice, tricks for anyone else who's trying this. I'll probably look into it myself, see if I can learn something. But basically, the Sons of Carthage is a lot easier than it used to be, and we're going to do this as a, well, test run, if you will, before we do the same against we'll basically be doing the same here with Granada, the Reconquista. So I'm basically trying to do those two achievements. Paradox is also releasing a bunch of there's going to be 20 new achievements with the 1.9 patch, so I'm going to be doing a lot of probably smaller runs, so to speak. We'll not be recording the entire thing. I'm thinking of doing Venetian Sea, probably stretching it over 2 or 3 episodes, because there's going to be a lot of, well, non-interesting things. Venetian Sea is a really interesting achievement because you can have only 9 cities, but you are required to have 90% trade power in Constantinople and Alexandria. There's some tactics to do this, but I'm going to go through that once I actually decide to do the achievement. But for now, the plan for the next achievement after this one, which is kind of early to talk about, will be the Reconquista, provided that, well, I do it before the release of the new achievements or something like that. We'll see. But again, feel free to comment any comments you have, praise, criticism, anything at all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.